He hadn't spoken his name in 15 years, hadn't dared even in dreams where golden eyes still burned through smoke and fur still brushed against boyhood's skin, now grown cold with silence. But when the white lion with one eye stepped from the morning fog and pulled his son from the river like a ghost returning to claim something unfinished, Elias collapsed without words because the past doesn't knock, it crashes, and some losses bury themselves so deep they become part of your breath, and yet there, he was breathing again, not because he was ready, but because something ancient had remembered him, had waited, had carried his name through ash and rain and wildness, and now stood watching with that same terrible stillness that once meant love before. The fire before the silence, before the years that took everything but memory. He rose early each morning before the sun broke through the clouds, just as he had as a boy, when quiet meant safety and ritual kept the grief from waking. He boiled the same kind of tea his mother used to make, even though he never drank it fully, just held the cup for warmth, his hands remembering the weight of something softer. He walked the narrow path along the edge of the village with his son toddling ahead, stopping to pick up smooth stones. The boy did not know the way his father's gaze lingered, too long on the trees, as if searching for a shape that never came. And each time the wind rustled the grass, Elias's shoulders tensed, then relaxed slowly, like a reflex learned long ago when danger and love had worn the same face he kept a wooden, carving on the windowsill, a lion smoothed down by time, its eye missing not from design but from memory. And though he never explained it, he dusted it every morning like a small act of penance. No one noticed how his smile always stopped just before it. Reached his eyes how some nights he stood at the doorway staring into the darkness, as if it might answer the question. He never dared to ask again. Everything around him was calm, the chores, the greetings, the rhythm of a father's life. But inside a thread pulled taut, stretched over years of silence, not broken, only waiting. It happened too fast for understanding, just slow enough to remember forever. The sky had turned the color of copper, the air thick with smoke and panic. Elias ran barefoot through burning grass, screaming a name no one else knew. The heat was everywhere, cracking branches, choking lungs, turning everything familiar into something cruel. He saw him then just once through the flames, a flash of white, a single golden eye locked with his then gone, swallowed by fire. Strong arms lifted Elias, dragging him back, kicking, screaming, begging. They left claw marks on his soul. Not skin. They told him later, it was over. They said no trace. They said it kindly, but he heard only absence, not death, not peace, just the unbearable sound of nothing, where once there was breath. He didn't cry. Not then. The silence took him first. He stopped talking, stopped drawing, stopped touching the world as if afraid it might burn too. His laughter folded in on itself until it vanished altogether, and in its place came the stillness days. Past years passed, but time didn't move inside him. People called him thoughtful, quiet, polite, but they didn't see the boy who still stood at the edge of that fire, arms outstretched, waiting for something to return that never did. The world offered him new things, new faces, new days, but none of it reached where it hurt the most. He learned to live like a shadow beside his own life, always moving, never fully there. The echo of pause beside him, long gone yet never leaving, and even in sleep the dreams were. Never kind, only filled with running, chasing, screaming, and waking with empty hands. Let me pause here for just a moment. And now I want to ask you, where are you listening from right now? Have you ever felt it? That strange, powerful moment when someone, maybe a person or even an animal, remembered you after years apart, something unspoken, but undeniable. If this story touches something in you, if these quiet emotional journeys speak to your heart, go ahead and follow along. There's much more to come, and it only gets deeper from here. It had started hours before the river with something small and cruel, a video on a stranger's phone playing on mute over coffee, a rescue in the wild, a white blur moving through trees, a single golden eye catching light for less than a second. Elias had dropped the cup without knowing why, hands shaking, the sound of porcelain cracking louder than it should have been. Something inside him had cracked too. He hadn't spoken the name in years, hadn't dared to. But now the memories surged uninvited, unstoppable. The weight of a small body against his chest, the rough texture of fur, the warmth that used to sleep beside him. And suddenly it was all too close again. The ache, the question, the what if. And it lingered like static in his chest as he walked by the river. Later that morning, his son skipping ahead, and for the first time in a long time, Elias felt it, the pull, the whisper. What if he's still out there? What if he remembers? And then the splash, the scream. The world collapsed. He dropped everything and ran. But the river was faster than memory, and fear could carry him. And then the roar. It wasn't loud, but it shook the bones of the earth. A sound that didn't just mean power, it meant presence. And Elias watched, unable to speak, as the white lion rose from the fog, like a story that had refused to end his son safe in its jaws. Not harmed, not afraid, the child placed gently on the grass. And then that eye, that impossible golden eye, met his, and the years fell away like leaves, and Elias felt everything at once: joy, terror, disbelief, hope, and guilt for having given up too soon. The lion didn't move, didn't come closer, just watched, and in that stillness, Elias trembled with a question he could not ask aloud. Is it really you? And, beneath it, do you remember me? And deeper still, am I still yours the way you are still mine? The air between them felt thick, as if time itself had stopped breathing. Elias stood still, not out of fear, but because something inside him had splintered open and didn't know how to close. The mist clung to the grass, and the only sound was the soft ripple of the river behind them. The lion stood just beyond reach, his fur duller now, streaked with age and weather. But the shape of him, the weight, the presence, it was the same. And then that eye, that single golden eye, locked onto Elias with a force that pulled everything else away. And in that moment he wasn't a man, and the lion wasn't a beast. They were just two halves of a memory, seeing each other whole again. Elias took a slow step forward, then stopped unsure, afraid the spell might break if he moved too fast, and the lion tilted his head just slightly, a movement so familiar it crushed something in Elias's chest. It was the same curious tilt Solace used to make as a cub when he didn't understand a command but wanted so badly to try the same small questioning gesture that once meant, "I hear you, I'm trying." Elias's breath caught, his hands shook, and he whispered the name again. Solace, softer this time, not calling it, just releasing it into the world, like a truth too long held in the lion's. Ears twitched. He shifted his weight, then slowly, deliberately lowered his head, not in submission, not in fear, but in recognition, like a vow, like memory. Answering back, Elias dropped to his knees, not from grief, but from something bigger than grief, from the weight of being known after so many years of silence, from the shock of being remembered when he'd forgotten how to ask for it. They stayed like that for a long moment, not moving, not speaking, just watching each other, as if afraid the light might break what had been found. And in that stillness nothing hurt, and nothing was missing. And Elias knew, with a certainty beyond reason, beyond words, that the lion had never forgotten. Not the boy, not the bond, not the name. In the days that followed, Elias found himself reaching for the world in small new ways, his hands steadier, his voice no longer caught in his throat. When he laughed, it felt like something being released, not forced. His son noticed first, tugging at his sleeve during walks, pointing to the trees and saying "lion" with wide bright eyes. And Elias smiled each time. Not with sorrow, but with something softer. Almost gratitude. He began waking before dawn again. But now he stood at the window, not in longing, but in quiet thanks. The carved lion on the sill was no longer a wound. It was a witness to something that had returned, not just from the wild, but from within. He started humming again while making tea, old tunes from childhood songs. He hadn't realized. He remembered sometimes during walks by the river, he'd feel the hair on his arms lift, and he'd pause, hand resting gently on his son's head. not afraid, just listening. And somewhere far, but not too far, a low rustle in the underbrush would echo back. No roar, no step, just presence. And that was enough. He no longer needed proof because everything he doubted had already answered itself in the way his boy laughed without fear, in the way his own heart beat now without splinters. And though solace never came, close again, Elias knew he was there. Watching, sometimes guarding, always remembering. And that was the miracle, not in reunion, but in the truth that love, once real, once deeply given, does not disappear into silence. It roots, it waits, it returns when the time is right and walks beside us even when unseen. Some bonds never ask for permission to return. They simply arrive when the soul is ready to feel, again crossing years and silence like they were never there at all. Because what is real does not vanish. It burrows deep, it watches, it waits. And when it returns, it does not demand to be understood. It simply stands there, eyes meeting eyes, heart recognizing heart. And in that stillness, everything changes. Not loudly, not suddenly, but like the first breath after drowning quiet, certain enough to begin again, without fear or need for words, just the knowing that love remembered is never truly lost, only waiting to be found when we need it most.